Kyle. So we're going to get started here, but just so you know, the secretary has to catch a train, so we don't have a ton of time. Right now, they are going to sign the ceremonial agreement. They signed the real agreement downstairs just moments ago, and then they will come up, give brief remarks, and take questions. Thanks.
We're delighted to be here in this frozen tundra on this day because we have warm news, and that is that NYCHA and the City of New York and HUD, along with SDNY, have reached an agreement. Now, interestingly enough, the whole concept of public housing largely got started right here in New York many decades ago. And you know, the ideal was to be able to provide safe and clean and nurturing environments to give people an opportunity to move up the ladder. Over the course of the years, some things have happened that have been unfortunate and have resulted in environments that sometimes are not completely safe, with lead and mold and vermin, and elevators that don't work properly, and heating issues that put people's lives in jeopardy. And we all recognize that this is a problem. And you know, we have a couple of options, some of which are not particularly pleasant. But one of the best options, which is extremely pleasant, is when you have people who are willing to put the people first and the needs of the people first. And that's what I found with the mayor. We were able to put aside any political differences and think about what would provide the right kind of environment for the people here. What have been the things that have precluded that in the past? And what kinds of things can we do now that are controlled on a local level and empowered by all the various components to make sure that the people's needs are taken care of. And I'm very excited about what we have agreed to here, because I think it sets a great precedent for what can be done in other places around the country. You know, public housing, assisted housing, these are things that we need to be concerned about. Affordable housing especially we need to be concerned about, because the cost of rents is going up about 20% faster than the cost of inflation and other things. And obviously we're going to have to get to the root causes of these things and fix them, because having a safe and nurturing environment is key to human development. And our most important resource are our people. And if we want our people to be developed appropriately, we need to provide those basic resources to get them there, to show them there, because when they are developed, it makes our country much stronger. So it's been, I have to tell you, it's been a pleasure actually working with the mayor, with SDNY. You know, this has nothing to do with Democrats or Republicans. It has everything to do with the people. And with that, I'll turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. I want to affirm the statement you just made. You know, at the beginning of this process, I'm sure that there are many who would have predicted that Secretary Carson and I would not have been able to work together well and communicate and find common ground. But I want to thank Secretary Carson for his tremendous commitment to getting to an agreement. We put a lot of time in. I want to thank you, Mr. Secretary. I also want to thank your staff here and in Washington. I want to thank as well U.S. Attorney Berman and his team. This has been going on for many weeks, and it's taken a lot of work, a lot of focus. Secretary and I have met in person several times here and in Washington. We've spoken constantly on the phone. And I actually used to work at HUD. I know something about HUD. I want to say this secretary has shown me a level of focus and concern that I deeply appreciate, and that most importantly, the 400,000 New Yorkers who live in public housing I know will appreciate, because we were able to get to a cooperative and constructive outcome. 400,000 people who are the backbone of this city. I want to remind people, sometimes in the public discourse, folks who live in public housing are stereotyped, and I think often stereotyped negatively and unfairly. They are the backbone of this city. They are everyday people who get up and work hard, many of them 2 jobs or more, to keep this city running. And we owe it to them to provide them decent housing. Secretary Carson and I inherited a situation that was many decades in the making. And I wish we didn't. I wish that over those decades there had been consistent focus and support for public housing at all levels of government, but there was not. We inherited a very troubled situation. But we resolved from the beginning to do something different and to find a way to cooperate in the interests of the people. What we have done here today, I think, creates a strong path forward and a very tangible path forward. As we met, we were both committed to very specific goals that would change and improve the lives of public housing residents. There was equal commitment. It was not something that one side wanted, the other one didn't. We both wanted tangible and specific goals and timelines. We wanted to make sure there would be results. And I want to thank the Secretary also, because I know he believes in something I believe in, which is local control, the power and the accountability that comes with local decision-making. I mentioned to the Secretary that just this week I was at a town hall meeting in the Bronx, and NYCHA residents came up to me to talk about their concerns and issues, and that's the way it should be, that they are demanding of their local leaders accountability and results. This agreement continues that and strengthens that. The agreement was made possible also by tremendous hard work, not only by members of the City Hall team, but also Office of Management and Budget Operations. A number of city agencies participated, but most especially everyone at NYCHA. And I want to thank Stan Brezhnev, Vito Mastachello, and their entire teams who worked tirelessly over many, many weeks to put together this agreement. But I especially want to thank them for the progress that has been made and is real and tangible. The NYCHA 2.0 plan, the progress we've made in reducing heating outages and speeding along repairs and recovery from any outage. Real changes are happening at NYCHA, and this plan will help them to happen faster. Just a few quick points. We are 100% committed to providing the resources that we originally committed to back last summer. And over a 10-year time frame, that is $2.2 billion in city money, and that is money that will be well spent on behalf of the people who live in NYCHA. This is on top of $4 billion in previous commitments we made that had nothing to do with the proceedings we're addressing here, but were all about the commitment this city government feels to those residents. We are going to continue with our new 2.0 plan. It is going to allow us to fully renovate 175,000 apartments. We need HUD's cooperation through the RAD program. We know that we have to, in each case, win approval, development by development, but we also know that the Secretary and his team are committed to the principles of the RAD program, and they've been very receptive to working with us. And we see this as a partnership now, and I want to end on this note. We see this as a partnership to get things done for the residents. As we all talked, and I want to certainly include our colleagues at the U.S. Attorney's Office when I say this, we kept talking about the goals we had to reach and how we could all help each other to get there. And this plan allows us to do it. It has created an atmosphere of partnership and a sense of shared destiny that will benefit the 400,000 people who live in public housing. So with that, I say thank you, Mr. Secretary, and would you like to take a few questions? All right. Some questions, yes.
Yes, Mayor and Secretary. This question's for you, Secretary. Tenant presidents told me on Facebook they'd like me to ask you if you are going to show NYCHA the money, and if they're going to have a seat at the table. They feel they haven't had a seat at the table for a very long time. What do you say to them?
Well, we're very interested in the people themselves and what they have to say. And I'm very hopeful that the monitor will engage with the people themselves, with the resident consuls. Of course, the federal government will continue to support financially what's going on here at the largest public housing complex in the country. You might be interested to know that already the federal government has committed $25 to $30 million a week to NYCHA. So it's not a small commitment.
Okay, way back.
Mayor, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but looking at the dollar figure, it's basically the same as what we currently have. The 2.0 program that you started and you've been working on with 175,000 apartments, that's the same. It's great, I guess, for NYCHA and for us in the city that the feds are not going to be overtaking NYCHA, but I don't see a lot different here. Can you correct me if I'm wrong?
Look, the standards that were set last summer, we thought were good. We signed the deal. We all signed the deal, and it went before the judge, and the judge asked us to go back and work on it again. But in that process, we found a way to do something I think that's even better, which is this negotiated settlement, which concludes all the outstanding legal matters and allows us to move forward. So that is different to have come to a larger agreement with much more tangible goals. If you just compare this against the consent decree from the summer, you will see this has a whole host of tangible goals on heat, vermin, lead, you name it. I think that's an improvement for all of us. And there's a much clearer spirit of partnership. And I am very content that we've actually gained ground for all of us, and for most especially for the members of, the people who live in public housing, that this agreement is superior to what we put together in the summer.
And wouldn't you say,
please.
Mr. Mayor, also that there's been improvements in the heating situation year over year, quite significantly?
And I appreciate that. Secretary and I have talked about this quite a bit. And again, tremendous credit to Stan Brezhnev, Vito Mastachello, and their whole team. Last winter, we all agree, was an unacceptable state of affairs. This winter, we still have more work to do, but I've kept the Secretary updated regularly. We went last winter from an average recovery time in developments of 54 hours to now it was 9 hours as of Martin Luther King Day. As of the last few days, it went down to 7 hours to get developments back their heat. This is a version of, an example of steady progress. There have been times, because I check with Vito constantly, there have been many a day lately in this cold snap where no developments had a heat outage, or only one in the whole city, or several in the whole city, but it's night and day from what we experienced last year. Yes?
Mr. Mayor, in terms of the monitor, how will you work, the city work with the federal monitor? Mr. Secretary, when will that person be announced?
We should have a name within the next couple of weeks. And obviously, somebody that we all agree on, and somebody who understands the role of a monitor. It's my strong desire and hope and trust that the monitor will be mostly doing just that, monitoring, because I believe that the mayor and his team are very committed to getting this work done. I don't think that we're going to be in a situation where the monitor and HUD and others have to come down and say, how come you guys aren't doing what you're supposed to do? And not only that, but you guys will act as the eyes. And there will be quarterly reports coming from the monitor in terms of what progress has been made. There will be specific landmarks that we will be looking to meet, and people will be able to see whether that's being done. So transparency is going to be a big part of enforcement in this particular case. And I do want to take an opportunity to just say how hard the people have worked on this agreement. This was not come by easily. And, the Office of the General Counsel at HUD, the Mayor's Office, and SDNY have worked around the clock. There have been times when they've stayed up all night. They've been working through the weekends. And this is not something that we're taking lightly. I believe this is going to work.
I affirm that, just real quick, I affirm that, and I want to say we believe that there are very productive models of monitorships, and we have great examples right now, the most obvious being at the NYPD, where that monitorship in the stop and frisk case has been productive and constructive, and we know what that looks like, and we believe this will be a monitorship in that same vein. Marcia?
Mr. Mayor, two questions. Number one, the agreement calls for a change in leadership. Could you explain to me what that means and when it will happen? And secondly, there have been estimates that it would take $32 billion to completely fix everything at NYCHA. Where will that money come from?
Marcia, on the second point, the NYCHA 2.0 plan accounts for $24 billion of the almost $32 billion needed. And that is through things like the RAD program, the development that will occur, the private development on NYCHA sites that will give resources back to NYCHA, the air rights that will sell to give resources back to NYCHA, and other forms of revenue that already exist, including the city's commitment. There is a last piece we need, obviously. And that, I will tell you, and I've had this conversation with Senator Schumer, we're going to work hard to get that from Washington. And that will be an ongoing effort. But we certainly have real resources available right now to start this serious work and to reach the goals that are in this plan. On the question of the leadership, so in this plan, we codify the pathway to having a new chair. Now, here's the deal. We could not start effectively to negotiate with candidates to be permanent chair of the Housing Authority until this matter was resolved. There's a lot of good, talented people in this country. We look forward to one of them being our new chair, but no one was going to take the job until we resolve these structural issues. No one's going to leave their important job and come to New York City in a situation that's unresolved and unclear and unstable. We now have the stability and the clarity to get a top-flight leader for the agency permanently. We've said all along that we've had an interim chair, and Mr. Brezhnev done an outstanding job, but he was very clear he was interim and only intended to do it for a short period of time. It was his commitment to public service to do that. But now we can start a formal nationwide search, and I think we'll be able to resolve that in just a few months. So the search process will begin immediately. It's delineated in the agreement. Stan will continue to work on a transitional basis as we prepare for a new chair, and we'll give you the timelines more as they develop.
Doesn't HUD have to approve, and Mr. Secretary, don't you have to approve the new leadership at the city's public housing authority? And why do you think that there needs to be new leadership at the housing authority?
And I'll just say, Mr. Secretary, I'll go over the details in a moment of the plan.
Yeah. Well, as was said, Mr. Brezhnev stepped in an interim role. So there automatically has to be new leadership. You can't just leave it vacant. We are not going to try to micromanage what is going on here in New York City. Part of the agreement provides the ability to look, to monitor, to intercede if necessary, but I have great faith in the process that's been set up here, and I believe it's going to work just fine.
Mr. Secretary, I do too, and I want to say the dialogue we've had over the last few months convinced me that we could have a process which really is unprecedented for cooperation. So it's codified in the agreement. We are welcoming nominations from HUD, from the Secretary and his team, from the U.S. Attorney. We'll have our own nominations. We're going to agree on a common list of names. We're all going to interview those people. Ultimately, as the local elected leader, I will make the final decision, but it's going to be a very collegial process, because this is what has become clear to me. I want HUD to have faith that real change is happening here. HUD holds the key to a lot of what these 400,000 New Yorkers need. HUD has tremendous regulatory power. The decisions they can make on waivers can save us a lot of money, speed up our work. We need approvals on the RAD program to reach those 175,000 apartments. But the Secretary and his team have a right to believe that when they do that, they're seeing real results and that they have confidence in the work. I think one of the great confidence building measures is we're actually going to work together to figure out who's the right leader for the biggest housing authority in the United States of America by far. And the same with the U.S. Attorney. They have raised important issues. It's been a constructive process. So we're all going to work together. I will make the final decision, but I want to see, as much as possible, a consensus process. Thank you, everyone.